Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm giving everyone a minute to join. I know it takes a few seconds, a couple of minutes perhaps for participants to join, but I'm particularly happy to be here today with my colleague, Dr. Laura Foster. My name is Sabrina Paganoni. I'm the co-PI of the HEALEY ALS Platform Trial, and this is our weekly update. And today, as we do often during these webinars, we take a tour around the country to get to know our wonderful sites and site investigators. And today we are really excited to travel to Colorado to meet Dr. Foster and her team. So if I'll turn this over to you, Laura.
Thank you, Sabrina. It's a pleasure to be here. And as she said, I'm in Colorado. I'm in Aurora, just outside of Denver, and am the platform trial site investigator at the University of Colorado. I'm working with a fantastic team. The next slide has their pictures on it. We have a well-established research group and people who are enthusiastic and very dedicated and organized and help me stay on top of everything. Stacy Dixon is one of the site investigators as well. Brianna Bloom is our coordinator and who kind of manages the research team. Brenna is our main research coordinator who runs most of the visits. We have Haley, who does the pre-screens for us and helps with other details. Emily and Diana are some of our other coordinators who help at the study visits. So I'm very honored to be working with such good people. Our next slide has a picture of our campus, I believe. Oh, that's the next one. This one talks about our participation in the platform trial in general. So we enrolled our first participant in October of 2020, which was towards the beginning of the trial. And we have 14 participants as of today. And so it's an honor to be able to work with the people who are willing to help with this research project, including the participants, especially the participants. The next slide has a picture of our campus, and there are two main buildings that we work out of. One is the clinic, that's the arrow on the left, and the other is the research building, which is the arrow on the right. So you can see the mountains in the background here in sunny Colorado. Next slide. I have a couple of tips as far as things that we've found helpful as a research team. One is when people are traveling, it's helpful to have a person coming with them. We have a few people who come from a ways away, and so having somebody come with them can help them manage their energy and be able to help with some of the logistics. And we found that people like to bring their own snacks, which helps get through a long day when you travel on one side and have a long visit. And then we do have a few hotels nearby, and people who travel have found that it's helpful to stay nearby and be able to go back and forth from the hotel to campus fairly easily. So those are some of the travel tips that we have for, just wanted to share with you in case that's helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I know you and your team always give personal attention and really help participants, as you just showed, with every detail. So if you are in the Colorado area, please contact Dr. Foster and her team for participation in the trial. And in terms of our weekly updates, before we move on to the most important part of the webinar, which is your questions. Again, I wanted to remind everyone that we're testing 4 drugs at this time in the platform trial approach, which is an approach that was put in place to test more drugs faster and reduce placebo. And we also have an open label extension offered for people who complete the 6-month placebo-controlled trial. So I'm very excited to move on to the next slide, because you'll see that on the next slide, you'll see that now we really have phenomenal participation. As always, we're really getting very close to the completion of enrollment in regimens A, B, and C. As you can see on the slides, for those of you who attend every week, we continue to make progress. We already screened many people, and we're really getting close to the target, which is about 160 individuals per regimen. So we're really getting there. Thank you so much to all of you who are direct participants, or just if you are supporting someone who's in the trial or spreading awareness. All of this is helping us achieve our goal. And then we also have regimen D, which was starting more recently. So obviously we still have more people to enroll in that regimen. But for A, B, and C, we're really getting very close to completion of enrollment. And then once we enroll approximately 160 participants in A, B, and C, we will follow them for 6 months. And after that, we will have the results of the first 3 regimens, which is important because we'll have results for 3 drugs at the same time, roughly the same time, not just one. So let's move on to the next slide. And this is a slide that contains the link to the website as well as the QR code that directly connects you to our website, where you can find information about all participating sites, including the University of Colorado. So if you would like to email their coordinators, please scan the QR code and the code will bring you there to the website. Next slide. And very important people who are always join us on our webinar. It's really a pleasure for me to get to work with them on a daily basis. Catherine Small and Alison Bullock are our wonderful patient navigators, and they are available to answer calls and emails outside of this webinar as well. I know, Catherine, you're taking just a few days off, so there will be a cover in person, but obviously for when you come back, you'll be available again to answer questions. The QR code also can bring you to the website that shows the eligibility criteria that are publicly available. Again, I know there are questions about what are the eligibility criteria, and you can quickly go there. And also we have on our website a very helpful eligibility tool to sort of at least look at some of the main criteria to see if you might qualify for the trial. Next slide. And here is a list of our upcoming webinars. Again, we really enjoy to get to know our sites and our principal investigators at the sites. So that's the list of the people who will be coming and on these webinars and tell us more about their sites. And also we'll have Jen DiMartino from ALS1, which is one of the foundations supporting the trial. As noted on the slide, we will skip September 16th in observance of Yom Kippur. So I think that was the last slide. So I think we can, stop sharing the slides and start taking the questions. I see many questions already in the Q&A. So let's start taking them. And one question about you, your site specifically in Colorado. So there is a question for the people who are traveling. Are you allowing for telehealth visits?
We are not doing telehealth visits. The study allows for telehealth to be part of it when it's restricted by COVID. And so our site right now is open. So as far as the COVID restrictions go, our research building is open and our clinic building is open. So we are asking people to travel to the site for all of the all of the study procedures.
Right, and I do want to point out that traveling to the site allows us, or the study team, to collect all the important biomarkers and additional information that would not be possible via telemedicine. Now, I do want to point out that if, depending on the geography, and if people come from areas where they cannot, they cannot live for COVID-related reasons, again, we do have the option of telemedicine. In-person visits do give us more information and also the biomarkers. And I see a comment in the chat about Catherine being a great help to patients. So thank you so much. I know you've been in contact with so many patients, and that's great. So there's a question about sort of if the number of people enrolled at the site, so that the person notes that there's, about 18 people, I believe, enrolled at your site. So the question is, so there is a question in the chat. I also want to ask a separate question, but the question is whether there is a hope of changing the qualification criteria to open up the study. So I just want to make sure that this is, I mean, maybe Laura, you can tell us more about this. Do you feel like the number of people, participants you have enrolled so far, is that limited by the qualification criteria, or just help us understand how that works?
Yeah. The inclusion and exclusion criteria is important to follow in order to keep the scientific rigor of the study. And that's something that I know the HEALEY team has been really careful about identifying. And we know that it's hard to have people who are coming up on 3 years or who have trouble swallowing who are excluded from the study because of those inclusion exclusion criteria, and that it's part of the balance that we are trying to maintain and follow the rules of the study. And so I think it's something that's not unique to our site and something that we do find hard to tell people no when they don't qualify, and that's an important part of the research protocol. What would you add to that, Sabrina?
Yeah, no, I would say that, this is a question that we have been discussing with the patient community a lot about, and I think it's a great question. So first of all, in terms of the eligibility criteria, they exist because we want to be in the best position to be able to tell if the drugs work in a relatively rapid time, rapidly. And this is because this set of inclusion exclusion criteria gives us statistical power to see a treatment effect, if there is one, in a relatively short study. If we were to open up to people who have more diverse characteristics, that would require a larger and longer study, which would take longer to complete. I do want to point out that I think, and this is not about your site specifically, this is in general about sites, the fact that sites have, a number of participants ranging, from 10 to 20 or 30 max. The reason for that is, there's other reasons for that. So there is capacity at the site that's driven not by the eligibility criteria, but it's driven by the number of staff members available to do the research. So I think, we also need to talk about a separate topic, which is how to provide support to sites. So I do think that we are doing a lot of work on trying to provide as much support as possible to sites, but certainly this is really at the top of our priorities to identify additional sources of funding or additional support for sites, because it just takes staff to perform the procedures, and I think that for sites in the future, as we want to continue to expand the trial, we want to provide more support and make sure that sites have, again, more funding to hire more. I don't know, Laura, if that has come up at your site as well.
Yes, I think there's the limiting factor of the trial criteria, and there's also the limiting factor of our time and resources. And we share what you just said about wanting to make that not the limiting factor so that we can enroll as many people as possible.
Yeah, great. So there's a few questions here. One question is about exclusionary medications or other treatments. There's a question about cannabis, medical cannabis, or CBD. And the question is, maybe Laura, you can help us with this, whether they are allowed or not allowed in the program, so CBD products.
I'm wondering if you can help me remember, because I know exactly where to find that list.
Yeah, exactly. So you're absolutely correct. We have a very specific and detailed list of what's allowed or not, and CBD and medical cannabis are allowed. So always please, actually you had a great point on your slide about telling the site that you work with exactly the entire list of your medications and supplements, hopefully before even going in for screening, so that there's absolute clarity and a complete list, because the trial does have a very specific list. And as you were alluding to, the site investigators will really cross-check everything and, make sure that, if there are medications that can be changed ahead of screening to facilitate enrollment, that can be done. So there's a few questions about expanded access. So I'll try to lump them in one because they're somewhat similar. So again, basically the questions are, what opportunities do we have again to continue to expanded access options? And maybe Laura, do you have any thoughts about EAP at your site, or any thoughts you might have about expanded access?
So I'm excited about expanded access and think that it's an important opportunity to be able to provide people with ALS. And I think that there are safety measures that need to be taken in order to assure that people are safe as they can be on medications that have not been FDA approved yet. And so having the checks as far as people to monitor patients while they're on these investigational products is really, really important. And I think that's where having resources to have staff who can check in with these people and do visits is an important part of the equation. And also knowing that the pharmaceutical company is an important part of the equation as well. So there's lots of pieces that have to work together. And right now, our site does not have expanded access within the HEALEY trial. Platform
But
trial.
you're correct. I think you go back to the very important topic that we're really doing a lot of work on and fundraising for, which is ensuring site support, so that hopefully in the near future, all sites or many more sites will be able to offer expanded access. So again, we are really working hard on getting additional funding to support sites so that they can have enough people available to do the expanded access, as well as enroll more people in the platform trial. That's certainly a priority for us. A couple of quick questions about expanded access for the predopidine regimen, which is regimen D. As of right now, actually, sorry, about open label. As of right now, the open label for predopidine is only 6 months, but we're working on prolonging that, so it should become longer soon. So stay tuned on that. So again, we continue to work behind the scenes on trying to continue to increase options for access. So we're definitely doing that. All right. So a few more questions. There's a question about receiving a spinal tap in the trial. This is a very good question. So a participant says that they enrolled in the trial and agreed to the lumbar tap, which is fantastic. So first of all, thank you so much for doing that. Unfortunately, when the doctor went to perform the procedure, it was, I believe, technically challenging. So it was not a successful spinal tap. So the person is asking, how important this is, and should they try again? So I was wondering, Laura, how do you handle that? I know sometimes it's just technically complex.
Good question. This has happened to me, and I really, really second what Sabrina has said about the appreciation for the participant being willing to go through that procedure, and that it's something that I don't think we can justify the pain of going through it multiple times to try to get that fluid. And so when the one time that happened to me, I just thanked the participant, and we moved on with the trial, and he went through all the other study protocols, and just recognized that that was one that was not possible.
Right, exactly, yeah. Because we need to have sort of the pre-dose baseline lumbar tap to be able to compare it to the post-dose. And again, we really appreciate the fact that you volunteer for this. Sometimes, again, it's just technically challenging, but thank you again. And we certainly want, encourage everyone who can to donate spinal fluid, because we really look for several biomarkers which are important. There's a comment here about sort of supporting current legislation to support expanded access. I agree with the comment. There's some legislation that's being considered right now, specifically the Act for ALS, and hopefully, again, there will be a lot of more support for EAP. So thank you to the person who wrote the comment, and thanks to everyone who's trying to continue to raise awareness and continue to advocate on behalf of people with ALS. We certainly are interested also in continuing to expand these options. There's a comment about actually CLEAN having a non-blinded study at the University of Texas. I'm not really sure which study the person is writing about. I know that we are opening an expanded access, so perhaps that's what you are referring to. So we are certainly launching different expanded access programs in conjunction with the platform trial. We have the Verdiperstat regimen B open. We are about to launch, hopefully anytime soon, the CLEAN, and then we'll work on the predopidine as well soon. So again, lots of movement there, and it's good that there are different expanded access programs. They don't interfere, they don't counteract conflict with the platform trial itself, because this is for people who do not qualify for the trial. So question about sort of sharing eligibility criteria with the participants. So there was a comment here about a site where I guess there was a miscommunication with the patient. The patient was not told that they were very close to the cutoff of the 3 years since onset. And so I guess the comment is what can be done to facilitate that discussion. And specifically the comment in the chat is whether this criterion can be put to the front of the screening list. I can tell you it is at the very top of the documents, but I guess that more broadly, Laura, any suggestions in terms of how to continue to remind everyone besides, that this is so important and they should discuss with the patients proactively?
Yes, I think it's really important for people to know what their options are, and participating in research trials such as this one are an important part of that. And I think that participants or potential participants can advocate for their own participation, knowing about the details and asking about it, and reaching out to the site investigators and the site coordinators in order to be able to participate while eligible. And I think that the clock is something that most people with ALS are well aware of, and that we know that time is of the essence. And that's why we try to work quickly with people to get them in, and that we're working with people to spread the word and try to get as many people in, and that there are challenges and limitations to that. And so I hope that this person can get in, and that we can continue to work with more people.
Yeah, exactly. And we continue to work with the community to try to spread awareness among clinics, even among neurologists who might not be part of the platform trial. Absolutely, early diagnosis, early referral, and especially early discussion of trial opportunities. So we continue to work with many. I know many of you also on the call who help us continue to educate also the neurology community. There are a couple of great questions, and I put them together in terms of timelines for future regimens, and how sort of the completion of regimens A, B, and C will then affect the future ones. These are great comments. So to clarify, so regimen A, B, and C will be fully enrolled soon, over the next few weeks. We'll certainly announce it on this webinar. So we're looking forward to that announcement. So there will be a very short period of time when there's going to be only regimen D available, but they should be very short. And then we're already working hard on launching regimen E. And then regimen F, which is the RNA-60 regimen, should be added soon thereafter. So again, we really try to have about 2 to 3 regimens open at any given time. recognizing that it might not be always perfect. There might be sort of short periods of time when there is, a short lag between the regimens. When we initially launched the platform, this worked out really great because we launched with 3 at the exact same time. And now again, we're adding them. This is actually, somebody's asking, how is this managed? This is not a problem. This has happened a lot in all other platform trials. This is accounted for. The statistical models also account for it. Yeah. And then there's a question about what is the best trial for bulbar onset ALS? And wonder, Laura, if you have any comments on this.
I know that we have another study that's available at our particular site that's an IV medication, and we can work with people on whether they're eligible for that one, and that has the potential to be an option. I don't think there's one right answer for all of bulbar onset as far as which trial is best.
Yeah, and the ones in the platform specifically, they are for all types of ALS. So there isn't any specific regimen that's more for one type of ALS or another. There's a good question about time since onset versus time since diagnosis. I'll quickly say that the person who made the comment is correct that recollection can be also problematic because who knows when the very first symptom was, and people in my conversations with people with ALS, they often say that they're not sure when the very first symptom was, but the date of diagnosis also has its own issues because it's heavily affected by access to medical care, insurance status, local medical system, and how long it takes to get an EMG, how long it takes to see a neurologist. So I would agree that there is no perfect way of identifying sort of the very beginning of the disease. As you know, many people are working on biomarkers like neurofilaments or other ways to really detect ALS as early as possible, but I guess time of diagnosis is not perfect either, and so the consensus has been to sort of take the sort of healthcare related biases out of the equation and rely on the patient, rely on what the recollection of the patient is. So there's a comment about trilogy ventilators. I guess I know our clinic has done a lot of work on this. I would say that I would certainly suggest that you contact your neurologist because I know different clinics are being very proactive right now on that. I don't know, Laura, if you have any suggestions or other comments.
We've been working closely with our pulmonology colleagues to help connect people to the equipment that they need.
Thank you. There's a question about, if a study is successful, how long does it take for a new medication to be approved by the FDA? I don't know, Laura, if you want to just give some general comments on this.
I wish it were shorter. I think there is a time period of review that is many months.
Yeah, it's obviously we're all working on this, and as you know, this has been a source of frustration and certainly a daily headache for us. So I agree it might take some time. I would say that what we are doing, what's under our control is to design a trial that has all the characteristics for the results to be as robust as possible and acceptable, so to speak, by the FDA. In other words, by being compliant with the guidelines, by having very specific and very technical statistical models, very, very specific details, one can increase the chances of going as fast as possible. I can tell you that we did all this work for the platform trial in advance. In other words, we did meet with the FDA several times, and we did plan things in terms of the design, also the statistical models, etc., to be sort of FDA review ready, I guess, should the trial be successful. Then obviously it's always a matter of review, but I have to say at least we did put in all the work necessary for the data to be easy to share, easy to understand, and sort of easy to review, by the FDA. I know we're almost at time. Just wanted to thank the person who suggested that we look at this great Canadian resource, the Comprehensive Analysis Platform to Understand, Remedy, and Eliminate ALS. I must admit I have not, I'm not familiar with that, but I'll certainly look into that. So thank you for suggesting that. And then, you know, the last thing is there's a question about the Phoenix trial for AMX35. The sets have not been announced yet. They should be announced over the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that. And as always, we will keep you posted by way of this webinar and Neil's webinars. And so with that, I really wanted to thank Dr. Foster for being here and giving us, you know, her perspectives on the trial. We really thank you for all your work with the participants, and thank you to all your staff. Thank you to Alison and Catherine, and thank you to all the participants and the audience, and certainly we'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.